What's good, Sunshine Shoulders? Um, I hope that this is able to benefit you, and I'm uploading it on my channel addressed to you because I also want other BMPTs, be they SYSBM or Passport Bros, to benefit from this and to know to prepare for this before it actually happens. Every time I go back to visit the States right now, my brother says that I need to move back. Not visit, but move back, live there. And he'll make some pretty convincing arguments for this, but it's not enough for me to sit up and subject myself to endless stress. He forgets how depressed I was when I lived in the States. He forgets how hopeless things were to me and how quickly any hope would get dashed against the rocks when I had it. I had one good job in the States, one, as an adult, commensurate with my education, you could say, or paid commensurate with it. One. I remember sending him some money and saying to him, don't worry about paying it back. Put it to good use, but don't worry about paying it back. I can't forget that. I later on lost that job because it was a good job and I was working with them white folk, and you know how them white folk do. And so when Obama won re-election, they were like, nah, we're going to let these northern whites, these liberal whites, and these Negroes go. And I couldn't just be patient and say, well, it's because of the lack of work. And that's because it wouldn't come down to that. Of course they would say that, but it wouldn't come down to that reality. In reality, it was every time I found something good, it wouldn't last very long. But I could find something bad, and it would just last for a long stretch of time. And then the good that had been in that job before was no longer available. But when I would get into it, and then the bad would stick around forever, and it would be permanent. And it was always like that. It's like having the devil follow you around, but because of how bad things are not, you're not supposed to care. So you can see your blessings, but you can also see that what's not a blessing is actually a curse because it follows a pattern. It's intentional. And then when you finally leave and you go somewhere where everything's not a damn curse, everything important in life is not a curse, and you're able to actually keep or expound upon or properly use and multiply the blessings that God has given you, then someone wants you to go and move back to the States. Calvin, I don't know your last name, and that's the only reason I'm saying Calvin. If I knew your last name, and you probably said it on the channel, but I just didn't hear it. But if I did, I would use your last name. That's just the proper thing to do formally to someone you don't really know, and you and I never met. I guess I'll call you what they would call you in the Philippines, Mr. Calvin or Sir Calvin. Sir Calvin, you did the right thing by going to visit the States when you could. You did the right thing by going to visit your daughters when you could and visit your grandchildren when you could. It makes perfect sense that you would sit up and you would say, look, I'm not going to wait 6 years from now on to the next time. You did the right thing in that decision as long as you can go back more often. But by the same token, Mr. Calvin, I got to tell you, In order to move back to the States, and this is something I've had to really be aware of. Number one, when you go back to your hometown, Louisville, a lot of things are not in place that used to be. Now, you may go back and you can see, most of the time, you can see that your family's there. But just as you have family, you have grandkids that were not there before. Likewise, there will be friends that were there and they're not. Some are there, but you just won't know where they are. Others have left Louisville. Others have passed away. They've been buried for a while. And that's what you're dealing with. When I go back to my hometown and I walk around my neighborhood to get exercise, I see the same houses for the most part. I got plenty of childhood memories, but the people that are in those memories are gone. Nothing's staying the same. One of the most important houses in the neighborhood, as far as my memories go, is no longer owned by the family that was there, at whose home I spent plenty of time playing with their kids. None of the kids live there. The father passed away a long time ago. The mom has since moved into a smaller house within a very short drive. You drive to the edge of the neighborhood, you cross the railroad tracks and a big road, and then there are these smaller homes in another neighborhood that was recently built. And that's where she's moved because she doesn't need all that space she used to have. So when I walk around that neighborhood, it's just memories. There aren't even kids outside playing. The neighborhood is aging. The homes are beginning to age. And there's some who are still young enough or can afford the maintenance on them. And there are others who can't. And you can see the aging on the porches. It's changing. It's very beautiful to look at. To me, it's pleasing to the eye, but it's gone. There's one other guy who's still in the neighborhood. His father passed away. His mom is still there. He has moved out, and then he moved back in to the childhood home. His parents pretty much said, "You ain't got to move out," and he never moved back out. Um, and that's it. Just memories. Nothing stays the same. Everything else everything has changed on us, and that's what you're going to see when you go into Louisville. And of course, it may take a few trips for you to be able to see that. You may notice that businesses that were there and are big in your memories are gone and they're not there and they've been replaced by others. And the same thing has happened in my case now. I've been back several times, so I've had enough time to notice a gradual progression, but I still get to see what the sum total is of these changes going back to my hometown. My first time going back was 2015. When I went back in 2015, women were beginning to be classified as men and vice versa. I went back in 2016, and there were all of these protests, and they were starting around the time I left to go back to Saudi and do some summer work. And 2017, I went back and then 2018. And in 2019, I went back for a graduation. It didn't happen. In 2021, I got to go back again and visit because 2020 was ruined. And in 2022 and 2023, I didn't get to go back because of too much upheaval at my job here. But then I went back 3 years later, 2024, and I saw even more changes. And people were complaining about the young not even knowing how to work. And I pretty much said, I don't understand why you all keep saying that the young don't know how to work, but y'all don't know how to pay them. They've been saying for years, they have a work ethic if you have a pay ethic, but everyone has a low pay ethic, a poor pay ethic, especially if the employee is young. Oh, work them hard, but don't pay them much. Calvin, people are in your comment section saying, don't stay in the States. It's too stressful, and I agree with them. Now, retirement is one thing. That's cool. But nonetheless, you're still enjoying the retirement more in the Philippines. The Philippines have simply been better to you. Like you said, they've loved you back to life, so to speak. They've allowed you to heal. When you go back to the States, you have loved ones there. That's the good thing. But one of the best things you can do is to keep on in the Philippines and learn, since you're healthy and your natural lifespan is probably going to continue on for a much longer time frame. It's up to God how much time you actually have. But your natural lifespan is not near its end. So the best thing to do may be to go to the Philippines again, keep on and actually see what you can set up for your grandkids, especially your grandsons. Why? You mentioned that your daughters had made poor choices when it came to men. Your daughters had you in their life. I'm sorry, lives. The culture is broken. And I'm not saying this to badmouth your daughters. I only know they made bad choices in men because you said so. These guys are up and able-bodied and they ain't working. And I don't know if jobs are being offered to them. I'm not sure. But what I do know is that your daughters aren't with these men, even though these men don't work. Your daughters are with these men because they don't work. That's part of it. Black men that work, Calvin, are pretty much condemned to celibacy. So if you're one of those men that ain't going to tolerate being stuck in celibacy, your best bet is to not work. Your best bet is to have a prison record, some tats, some gold teeth, maybe another baby mama. As a matter of fact, I wonder how many guys out there don't actually have other baby mamas and babies they don't never see, but they got their girlfriends thinking that they do. Because that's how they get chicks. One of the reasons why it is that black women get these dudes with baby mamas and other races of women get the black men that don't have them is real simple. If you a black man that ain't got no baby mamas, well then, okay, it's plain and simple. You could get the tats and pretend to have baby mamas and babies you don't see in order to get a black woman. Or you could tell the truth about not having these things and get with a woman of another background. So one of the reasons why black women get this is because that's all they'll take. It's no secret. They don't want the guy that ain't got no baby mamas and other babies they don't see. They don't want the guy that ain't got no tats, no prison record. Some sort of affectations of the nigger lifestyle, the nick culture, have to be present on a man for a black woman to want him, especially if she's attractive. and educated. So what I'm saying, Calvin, is that your daughters, from what you have told us, are part of a very, very widespread pattern in nigga America. I don't see us as niggas, but a lot of our people do. As a matter of fact, a lot of our women see us as niggas. And that's even when we are in their lives. This has been a phenomenon, but it's recently been talked more about. You being there is not necessarily going to change your daughter's habits, their choices in men, what they think a real man is, and the kind of shiknet that a man has to be on to qualify to get inside your daughters, to be their boyfriends, to be their choices, their picks. You were a good granddad for wanting to be there for your grandkids. And I love that. I had good grandparents. Lord knows I miss them. By the same token, and they did stuff for us they didn't have to do. But by the same token, I got to tell you, I got a lady cousin that was like that. The first of the grandchildren of my grandparents. She had a father figure in her life. Now, he was a cheater, but that man was a hell of a stepdad to her. So she always had a father figure. You know what made it worse, though? Part of the issue was that my own aunt, whom I love, had this thing for dudes that should not have been with her. She had my granddad in her life. She had a protective man in my dad, younger than her, but protective of her nonetheless. But she had to have what she had to have men that she had. It had to be that way. She had to have this particular type of man. And then to make matters worse, her daughter, the first of the grandchildren, had to have the same thing when it came to men. Strong of body, weak of mind. What I'm saying is that the creation of the conception of your grandkids was under conditions you did not approve, and it almost had to be that way as dictated by the culture. And really, one of the best things you can do for them is to continue in the Philippines and build a setup, whatever you can in the Philippines for them, and try to help your sons to know how to transition to a life in the Philippines or somewhere nearby in Southeast Asia. That's the best thing for them. I know it sounds like I'm saying this because I'm a BMPT. I'm a black male passport traveler. SYSBM, to be more specific. But I say this also because, frankly, it's had to be this way. The best thing we can do is to set something up so that our male progeny have some options when it comes down to settling. They have some sort of guide that can walk them through some of the procedures. Your path was retirement, but it could be that they have to set up businesses that they know and then turn around and go into the Philippines. Set up one business in order to fund another smaller one in the Philippines. It may be, or elsewhere in Southeast Asia. What cannot happen is that we go back there, we live there, we get stuck there, we get um, stuck in the quagmire and in the sand and in the mud, trudging through it again. Look, if you go back to the States, you let it take just a few months. Once you were there permanently, all of a sudden you lived there, the expectations from you change in everybody else's mind. And then on top of that, to make matters worse, let there be one bad police stop, one traffic stop. You're doing the right thing living in the Philippines. America did not offer you what you would have needed when you were younger. So it's too late for anyone in America to say, we need you back here. No, they didn't create America. What America is ain't necessarily their fault, but by the same token, there are certain things they were not going to be for you when you would have needed that. Your daughters needed to listen to you. Your daughters needed to make better choices in men because they had that option. They knew you. They had access to your advice. They were going to have to go against the Nick culture that afflicts our people in order to choose better. They didn't. Your grandkids' dads are fathers because they don't work. Not even though they don't work. And if my daughters turn around and make the same decision, I have to turn around and say the same thing to them. If they come to me later and they're like, listen, your grandbabies need you, I'd say, well, I mean, I'm glad to do what I can for my grandkids, but what's up with their dad? If he's trying and just doesn't have much, like what I was going through when I lived in the States, that would be one thing. But I could easily say to them, listen, this is not who you want to marry. And if they don't listen anyway, and that's who they marry, that's who they pair up with, and that's with whom they conceive my grandbabies, I have to turn around and say to them, I can't help. The reason why I was advising you as I was advising you is because in a situation like this, I cannot turn around and help. I got to point you right back to that nigga that ain't got nothing. And it's not that he ain't got it because ain't nobody gonna pay him, which is one of the things that good black men tend to go through. He ain't got nothing because he ain't got it. And you're with him because he ain't got it. If he had it, he'd have been square, boring to you, and you'd have passed him up. And that's real, Calvin. Um, that's the Kroof with a capital K. Kroof. America will weigh you down and just take everything out of you it possibly can. You are still a black man, and it's still America. America ain't gonna love you back to life. Your grandkids may, but America ain't, and it's gonna leave you too exhausted to really be there for them. And you may have to turn around and start working to supplement that retirement, and then it really is gonna suck everything out of you because in America, I'd be a dog. If I own a business in the States, I gotta be a dog. I gotta sit up and tell my employees, I don't care why you late. Don't nothing matter to me except you being on time. I don't care what kind of shape your car's in. And no, I'm not giving you a raise. Go fix your car. Don't come to me with excuses because I got to be that way as a professor right now in a country I like living in. I got to be that way with my students because otherwise they'll always have excuses. They come into my classroom now. When it's not Ramadan, they come into my classroom unattentive, late, easily distracted, ask me to repeat the same information I just told them, turning stuff in late, and then not reading the feedback I give them and coming and asking me why did I get this mark? Why did I get these grades? Everything I tell them not to do, they do it. I tell them, don't start sentences with and, because, or. And they start sentences with these things and they send me messages. I told them, don't ask me questions with the grammar of their answers. Questions have their own word order in English. Use that word order. You already learned it before I met you. They asked me questions with the wrong word order. Why I got an F? Question mark. Because I worked hard. And then I got to go back and say, you started a sentence with because. That was a mistake. You asked the question with the wrong word order. That was a mistake because I already taught it to you again, even though you knew it before I met you. You come in late. You play on your phone. You're not paying attention. You ask me what page we're on, again, after I done already told you. You ask me which question. Then when you did an assignment, which was late, you didn't follow the directions. I told you to give me MLA format citations. You just gave me the link to the URL. That's it. That's not an MLA format citation, nigga. And you turn around. Everything I said not to do, you did. You followed not one single instruction. You won't be on time for class. You give me these excuses. And now I told you inside of the platform, the same place you went to go and see online that you got an F for that is where I wrote down you picked the wrong country. You didn't do MLA format citations. So you know why you got an F, but you didn't read that. And then you come in here asking me with the wrong word order and you start a sentence with because after I done taught you not to. Now, I got to be a dog with these students. I got to pretty much tell them, I don't care why you didn't follow the directions. I don't care what you thought about my directions. I explained it correctly. What do you want me to do? Turn around and say it again in Arabic? You wouldn't pay attention if I told you in Arabic. I have to be this dog with them. They walk in late. I'm sorry. Parking's a monster out there. Yeah, nigga, I know the parking lot is full. I just don't care. Because you knew parking is always going to be full every day. You're supposed to leave earlier than this. You left late. That's what it is. I'm sorry. I just woke up an hour ago. Nigga, I don't care when you woke up. You shouldn't have woken up that late. So if I go to the States and I do open up a business, all these people that are going to come in and apply to me are people with problems. And I don't need their problems affecting them coming into work and performing. And that's exactly what the hell I'm going to get. I need to leave work early because my child acted up in school. You better tell the little niglet to behave himself. Tell you what, I'm going to dock your pay. Now you got an extra reason to give him an extra butt whooping. Please don't do that more than please don't leave early. Sick of this. There's always something with y'all. I got to be that way. So if you go back there to the States and you do find yourself needing to work, you might as well go back to the Philippines. What's that about? Why not? You go back there, if you live there, you're going to find that they're going to come to you needing, maybe not your grandkids so much, but you're going to find that your daughter's going to come needing stuff, most stuff. I need this, I need that, I need this, I need that. That ain't your problem, huh, bruh? None of that. All that extra that they need is not your problem. It ain't your fault. And you're going to be weighed the F down And sometimes people have to make a decision in our lives. They need to make a decision. Do they want the material support you can provide from being far away? Or do they want you to be there, but you can't be much material support? You and I already know as men, even the women that love us in our lives, the blood relatives, the daughters, the moms, the aunties, even they, to a certain extent, are going to look and say, well, you a man and you here and you up under my roof and you need to contribute something, even if you already are. Like you ain't just going to be up under their roof eating. They're going to look for you to help with something, some bill somewhere. And you probably can. But, if you can afford to help with it, they say it's not enough. And it might be, because that's life in America. You saw the sticker prices. You said you can't afford it. You're right. You can't. Why do it? Don't subject yourself to that. And if you can't get back for another 6 years, that ain't your fault. If you can, you do it. If you can't, you can't. That's not your fault. I pray to God that we don't have to, I'm not forced to move back to the States. I pray to God that that doesn't become the case. I beg my Lord routinely, Lord, please don't make me take a pay cut while I'm here, and don't make me have to go back stateside to live. It ain't worth it. And sometimes I go back and people start telling me, well, they got more job opportunities now than when you left. It's too late. They should have been there when I was younger. How long did I live in the U.S. and these job opportunities were never there? Now I've been away for 11 years and they're popping up every so often. I don't care. If they really are there, it's too late. I don't want to pay into that system. You got crumbling infrastructure, bridges collapsing. You got a Department of Government Efficiency shutting down things that actually need to stay open because they're so busy finding wasteful spending and cutting that off. They're not doing a poor job of cutting off the wasteful spending. They're doing a poor job of saving things that really should stay on the books. Firing a bunch of national park rangers, this ain't the time for that. You got homeless encampments not far from national parks, and they're being preyed upon by predators. You got more empty homes and apartments in the States than you got homeless people. But nobody wants to put the homeless somewhere that's okay to stay in. That would also be considered wasteful government spending. As a matter of fact, that's considered so wasteful, it's never been the case. Never has been. Pretty much you got landlords and government saying, if nobody is paying rents or mortgage for these places, then we'd rather let them rot and a bunch of people be homeless. Ain't no way that we want the homes to actually be utilized for what they're for if there's not a big profit to be made off of it. Well, the reason there ain't a big profit to be made off of it is because these same governments and corporations are always trying to save money when it's time to pay people. They'll pay buckets of money for a thing or a technology, but they try to pay nothing when it's people. And they'll turn around and say something like, well, what you do, even though it's valuable, it's something that everyone knows how to do, so ain't no way we going to pay a pretty penny for it. You live in that kind of system in the States. You'll be on a treadmill. You move back there, you will be on a treadmill, and it will chew you up the way it did last time, and you will have to crawl back to the Philippines again with years of your life lost that you didn't have to lose. Just because you live somewhere else doesn't mean you don't love your grandkids and don't love your daughters. Your daughters are grown. And they had choices when it came to men. They made the choices. I don't say this out of hatred. I could be nice to them if I ever had to meet them for any reason. But the facts are facts. The men are the ones that don't have much choice, which you and I have both seen. If anything, they probably need to see you in the Philippines and how your wife is with you and learn and do exactly what the hell the Nick culture tells them not to do for their men. And which men to pick. By doing it, they could have given your grandkids a much better chance. There's an African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. The problem is that the African women in the diaspora, especially the Anglophone diaspora, have made it their business to push the dad out so that the village can raise the kid. They made it their job to take the children away from the dads, and then at the dad's expense, the village has input. But the dad doesn't. And that's the system. And even if your daughters ain't gone to that extreme, and they probably did not, that's still how the system is, legally and culturally. I mean, America's going to have to go through a fundamental change, and Black America's going to have to go through its own fundamental change. We still got a hazing problem in Black culture after white folks done sat up and said they're at least going to try to get rid of it. That's just one thing. You got a president that is willing to put a bunch of Alabamans in the dark, literally. He's allowed electricity to become unaffordable because for them to even have electricity as much as they need, well, that's just that's wasteful spending. And I don't care about him putting a bunch of white Alabamans in the dark, but what about the Black ones? What about the ones who need that for healthcare reasons because of machines they have to run? Too bad. Better run your dialysis in the daytime when you don't have any lights on. People are going to be burning candles and then burning their homes down accidentally because that's who Trump is. I told y'all there was no candidate that was going to justify Black optimism. None of them were going to do it. It didn't matter. If you put him in the White House, you're going to have problems. You put Kamala in the White House, you're going to have problems. You didn't have an option. There wasn't going to be a bunch of problems except a third party. And Americans have never turned out in large numbers to vote for third parties. They don't even know how to. And third parties are probably going to be forced to turn around and be the same problem. So you don't have solutions that are actually there at the voting booths. That's America for you. So now you got a president that really wants to annex Canada as a state. Just go in and grab Greenland. No, just ours. Greenland. So you'd rather grab an island that's mostly ice and maybe 50,000 people living there total. You'd rather go and grab that because they white. But you want to grab up all these non-white folk and ship them out, which is not a problem for us. So you start grabbing up the Africans in the Caribbean that are not a problem for Black Americans. Now you want to grab a sellout. Wait, man. Okay, that's between you and them. They sold us out, but you know what? You start. But then the thing is, you got Trump that's sitting up here saying, okay, you know what? We will even grab legal residents of the United States, green card holders, valid visa holders. We will grab them up because they are supportive of Palestine. So since they're against the genocide, you want to start deporting them. And you know what Trump's going to deport them under the T Act. He's going to turn around and deport them to the prison in El Salvador because that's who the hell he is. That's America for you, Calvin. Stuff that we think ain't got nothing to do with us winds up having stuff to do with us. No, man, you already got a shot to live in the Philippines. You might want to hold on to that because, bruh, there's going to come a day when ain't nobody going to want to give no more Americans a chance to live amongst them. That day's coming. I just don't know when. I'm holding on to my job here. Ain't abusing me yet. I do my job. I can prove from doing it, and I get to keep it, and I thank God for that. I'm very grateful for that. But you know, on the real, Calvin, Mr. Calvin, sorry, I know that if I were to leave and go back to the States, and then I realize that it's going too far down, like I saw when I lived there, and then I decide, well, let me look to let me look to get back out the States. I may not be as lucky getting back out. I've seen people that have come into this country here in recent years, and they're not getting the good deal that I got. I've been here some time. They got to accept some bad deals to get visas to come over here. Employers here in Saudi are looking and saying, Americans want to leave. Therefore, we're going to turn around and lessen the packages that we offer. I mean, after all, we're a much more entertaining country in which to live, let or visit than what we used to be back during the time that Jet Black first got here. That's how these folks are playing it now. And sitting up and saying, "Oh, we'll pay them 2,200 US a month or the equivalent. We'll just pay them that. They want to leave the States. We'll get their ticket. They don't have to pay for that. But we ain't going to sit up here and make it a handsome deal for them because the States ain't no good for them." The one thing I have to admit that I'm glad Saudi doesn't do is that Saudi doesn't look at black Americans and say, well, since the police are still pulling y'all over and shooting y'all like crazy, we're going to offer you less money because you should be happy. At least they don't do that. Not to us. But yeah, if you were to go back and stay, you'd regret it. You've earned that peace that you have in the Philippines, and it ain't nobody's fault when they start getting needy in the States. When my brother starts telling me some valid concerns, and I got kids living in the States, he starts telling me, well, you're needed here. I'm like, no, 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 no. I was already here. I'm here to visit. I will come back to live when you N-words take it over. Revolution, and I don't have to fight it anymore. And I don't want you, my brother, to be the one making sacrifices either. You already lost a large chunk of your childhood because of the blacktivism of our parents, which wasn't their fault. They were right. But because of the reaction of the black population to the blacktivism of the pro-blacks. You grew up as a kid having to watch out for our people and for white folk. No joke. We had to watch out at traffic lights because we had to know that we could be followed and surveilled. Because people were looking at ways to get after my mom. We had some black politicians whose homes were being invaded. Papers searched through. These weren't robberies. And they would sit up and ask the alarm company, when did the alarm go off? And the alarm company said, well, the police told us that the alarm was going off. They told us the alarm was about to go off and that they didn't need us to contact them. What was that about? Police were going into their homes to look through papers. Yeah, this is a real thing. My mom covered it because they came forward and told my mom. So we knew they were willing to do stuff like this. Not only that, but truth be told, a nationwide famous blacktivist met my mom in person and made jokes about her complexion like it's just funny. He a blacktivist. He's dead now. And he had a talent for making jokes. He was a comedian. So, some of you might even know who he was. This is what we got for the blacktivism. My brother grew up, and instead of getting to just go through middle school like a middle school kid and high school like a high school kid, he grew up having to be a little bit anxious and see me be anxious about even driving. Getting on the phone with his friends and all of a sudden hearing his voice echo because he was being listened to. Stuff like that. That's what wound up being the case. And that's when that's when you fight back. Wasn't no support and understanding coming from a lot of the black population. So no, Mr. Calvin, my brother done forgot all about this stuff now, telling me we need you to move back. No, you don't. If I move back, I'm going to have to rely on mom and dad. They won't be able to rely on me for nothing. I won't have nothing. I'm going to have to turn around and rely on them. Where am I going to stay? I can't afford no rent over there. He's got all these business ideas that probably ain't going to work. And I'm like, yeah, but who's going to pay for this? Everybody's going to show up with an excuse as to why they need what I'm offering but can't pay for it. That's a problem in Saudi Arabia. The difference is I have an employer that's paying. But a bunch of people ask me if I can do it on the side, but they can't pay. And they got a dumb way of asking, Mafi free? There's no free? I'm like, hell no, it ain't free. You're going to pay it. It's a job. And you're a better one. You're even harder to teach than anybody else. And y'all are the ones always asking me. Teach me English. Nigga, stop practicing Bedouin. That's the major psychological block you have to learning English. You trying to hold on to Bedouin on one hand. You can't. It's anti-educational, anti-intellectual. But at least I got someone paying me over here to do my job. Over there stateside, it doesn't matter. Whatever I try to do, employers they're going to try to not pay. And then a bunch of people going to try to not pay. So it doesn't even matter that I got skills and talents over there stateside. If people can avoid paying, they'll just avoid paying. Some of them will do that over here, but in the States, that's all that'll happen. It'll happen to me, Mr. Calvin, it'll happen to you. Why do it? Why go back for that? You have the legal right to live in the Philippines. That's worth a lot. Don't lose that. And you're not being taken advantage of for it either. Don't lose that, man. If anything, your daughters might need to learn how to de-westernize and get themselves ready to live in a third world nation and not one of the big cities either. They might need to learn that. That might be something that pretty much all the Western women need to learn in order to be able to so-called save the West. And don't be ashamed to tell them that, if that's what it really is. You would know better than I do if it is the case. But if they're amongst the Western women that need to learn this in order for the West to become a better place to live, tell them, hey, look, you know what? You need to learn to make these changes. I don't need to change stuff. I did what the best I could. You change this. You change that. I hope that what I said is a benefit. I hope it helps you and some others that may have listened. I'm sorry this message took so long, and thank you for listening. As always, black heart, black mind, black out. Assalamu alaikum, black heterosexual, non-select male power, because they don't like it in black patriarchy until extinction of judgment day. Thanks for flying with us again here on Jet Black Air, where the phrase jet black is also a verb. Keep jet black with us till the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender, justice, forever.